Hello, everyone, and this is the East Coast Economic Update Mobile Edition. I just discovered I can do this on on my phone. A little bit. Anyway, this is the East Coast Economic Update for July the 25th, 2017. So here's some things I want to talk to you about. The Wall Street Journal, and I'll post everything after I post this, if it works. The Wall Street Journal today had an opinion piece about what they're now calling UBI, the Universal Basic Income. And the opinion obviously is something that you'll have to read for yourself, but it is a negative opinion piece on what both the World Trade Organization and the IMF have agreed to. And just in case you're not sure what the Universal Basic Income is, here's what it is in a nutshell. It is a belief that the technology is going to advance at such a rate, and it is, that unskilled and undereducated individuals who have no other skills other than manual labor and so forth get a basic universal income. Now, the big question mark in the universe is, what is that? $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year? Who knows? But it has to be, both the IMF and the WTO have to agree that it has to be enough that someone can live relatively comfortably. And that has to be worked out. Now, I'm in the middle of between Zuckerberg, which is who they're quoting because Mr. Zuckerberg is saying that there should be universal income. Elon Musk is definitely pressing for that. And the Wall Street Journal has its opinion, and I'll leave you to read it of your own volition. I'm in the middle of it. Now, the reason for this is kind of obvious, and I will also post some other stuff that I'm going to mention. One of them is an article about how in the last two administrations, this past one and this present one, immigration has been pressing people out of the United States, which on the surface makes people feel happy. The belief is that jobs will go to Americans and so forth. But the reality of why the immigration issue has become so powerful, the underlying issue of that, is that technology has finally caught up where they have machines that can be attached to large tractors and so forth that have sensitive nubs on them that they can pull lettuces, for example, in California, which is one of the largest crops, melons and so forth, that those crops that are at its peak at this point, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, grapes and so forth else, for wineries and so forth. Now, the rationale of that is that if there was no press on the immigration issue, we would have a situation where the average grower would say, well, why should I spend $5-6 million for new electronic equipment that I really don't need when I can just pay a small percentage of that for migrant workers? So by forcing the migrant workers south back to Mexico, and that depends on who you speak about, but Immigration Naturalization, ICE, says between 5 and 50% of illegal migrant workers have disappeared and returned back to the countries of origin, either by their own volition or by the efforts of ICE. So what we have now is an automation that is there waiting for the farmer, and the farmer turning around going, well, I have no other choice. So the electronics companies, the robotics companies, and software programmers have allowed, or will allow, will have the technology and are making a fortune, which in turn will not make Americans go back to the jobs that they had back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. The reality of that is that those types of unskilled workers, or even white-collar workers, and I can speak from personal experience, 17 years ago, I run a consultancy, and I used up to 12 or 15 people to do the same work that I do now with 3 people. and not even full-time. So even technology on the white-collar level and the office level and that sort of thing is being, for the most part, eliminated. So what is happening now, and this is the part where I take away the emotion end of this and say to you, the actions of the right, whatever you want to call them, and the reactions on the left, whatever you want to call them, are reacting to each other out of desperation of a situation. The right is reacting is reacting and acting in such a way because they feel that they're desperate. Their backs are against the wall. Unskilled, undereducated, middle-aged people like myself, being middle-aged, that is, are feeling desperate. They don't have any jobs. They have no prospects. Even the way we're looking at mining, because of hydrofracking and other types of non-polluting alternatives, is eliminating, and the technology is eliminating the need for physical manual labor. And just as if we look at an example of World War II or pre-World War II in the 1930s in Germany, the reaction is to the desperation of high inflation and the feeling that they have no jobs. It's also in the middle of the Great Depression. It's a worldwide depression at that time. And the feeling that they have no other choice, and their reaction to it ultimately leans towards fascism. And I've said this before, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is showing the U6 number at 4.4% unemployment. And the reality is that if you look at Shadow Stats is showing a real unemployment number of 23.767, right in the middle. And it's leveling off and going up while the other one is going down, because the U6 number is based on who's ever drawing benefits out of the government, out of the unemployment, not counting those who are unemployed and can't find work, not counting those who are working part-time jobs and looking for full-time, and those folks who have just stopped looking for work altogether and are living off either charity or, in many cases in rural United States, are applying for disability benefits, not necessarily because they're injured, but because they have no other financial option, and they're left with disability as the only way, a form of welfare, a form of universal basic income to feed their families and to keep them in their homes. So this kind of desperation that occurs is occurring because technology is advancing to the point where we need something. And the reason why I'm suggesting the middle way of a temporary universal basic income is to allow, just as Social Security did during the Great Depression, get the older people out of the jobs that they usually have, force them to retire, and allow the younger people to come in and fill that vacuum. And that vacuum today, as opposed to during 1930s America, is a technology boom where we need to be training our Gen Yers and our millennials, if they haven't already been trained, into these technologies so that they can fill those positions and advance technologies as they're going, because that's really the future. So this is where we are. This is what we're going to be talking about. I want to say hello to Doug. Hey, Doug at Goat Hollow. I know that we've not been able to have conversations, so this is my best way to express it. I'll post those links shortly, but I'd like to hear you guys in YouTube world, opinion on what you think should be going on. The alternative, if we continue the way we're going, is kind of like a Soviet collapse, except with capitalism. False promises by a leader and a hollowing out of our infrastructure, and our denying that technologies have changed so radically that our economy has to be rethought. All right, until next time, peace.